Hey everyone, you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
We're going to begin by going for refuge and then taking the precepts. So everyone chant with me. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi. Dhammang saranang gacchāmi. Sanghang saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchāmi. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To observe the 5 precepts, say after me. I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from killing beings.
abstaining from killing beings.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from stealing.
abstaining from stealing.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from telling lies.
abstaining from telling lies.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from taking
abstaining from taking
intoxicating drinks and drugs
intoxicating drinks and drugs
with the refuge of the noble triple gem.
with the refuge of the noble triple gem.
I observe these precepts
I observe these precepts
for happiness in this life,
for happiness in this life,
for rebirth in heaven,
for rebirth in heaven,
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
May it help me and be a blessing.
May it help me and be a blessing.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, everyone. So last week, we discussed 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃. You guys remember that? Is anyone here who was there last week? When we talked about 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃, we said we focused on the 4 postures. And did you guys practice that this week? Chadurma, did you practice that? Anyone? Vishaka, did you? Yes?
Yes, I started practicing it.
Okay, good. So 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃, that was kind of the homework for our last session, which was focusing on the 4 postures. This week, we're going to be covering the more advanced version of that, which is called Sampajanya. Now, Sampajanya is slightly different than 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃, where in 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗃 we only focus on the 4 postures. In Sampajanya, we're focusing on everything a person does. Every single thing, every single action we do, we're focusing on that. Whether that's speaking, whether that's moving around, anything. And last week, before we talked about the types of like doing 𝗙𝗂𝗵𝗂, we've covered that for these, there's two types of meditations. Do you guys remember that? Anaika, do you remember that? There's two types of bhavana. The one was called samatha. Samatha means serenity meditation. And the other one is called insight meditation or vipassana. You guys remember that? Anaika, you remember that? So in vidarshana, we said vidarshana is insight meditation. In vidarshana, the goal is to come to the view that something is impermanent, that something is suffering, and that something is non-self. And we said the goal of samatha or serenity meditation is to lower or suppress the 5 hindrances. So I'm going to share my screen. Do you guys remember this? We discussed this. Can everyone see this? So vidarshana, the goal is to get rid of, to have the views impermanence, suffering, and non-self. And for samatha, the goal is to remove or suppress these 5 hindrances. Hindrances means that these 5 things, sensual desire, ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, and doubt, are things that bother us when we try to focus our mind. So when we try to focus our mind, if there's an obstacle in our mind, if our mind is switching from the meditation to something else, it's falling into one of these 5. No matter what scenario, if we're not doing the meditation, we're falling into one of these 5. So if someone develops samatha, then he's developing samadhi. He's developing concentration because he's suppressing the 5 hindrances. If someone's developing vidarshana, he's developing his, we say ākalpa in Sinhala, or his view, his way of thinking, his way of seeing the world. So the Supreme Buddha teaches there's 3 types of people. There's someone who first develops samatha and then ends up developing vidarshana. So first he's able to, this person has lots of merit in his past lives. He can quickly and immediately come to samadhi. He can concentrate his mind very easily. It's natural for him to suppress these 5. Maybe he has a past practice from his past lives that come. So for him, it's easy to do samatha first. So this person ends up concentrating his mind first, developing samatha first. Those meditations, samatha types of meditation develop very, very quickly for this person. It's very easy for that person. So this person develops serenity first and then switches to vidarshana. Then he starts contemplating impermanence, suffering, and non-self through these meditations, whether it's kaya-anupassana, vedana-anupassana, chitta-anupassana, or dhamma-anupassana, which is this 4 establishments of mindfulness. Satipaṭṭhāna. So what does the first person do? He first develops samatha. That means he's able to quickly suppress these 5. It's natural for him. Then he ends up later on developing vidarshana. So that's the first person the Buddha described. Then there's a second person. So does everyone understand the first person? First person develops samatha and then ends up developing vidarshana. Then the second person is, this person can't concentrate his mind very quickly. It's hard for him. He sits down to meditate, but his mind ends up switching to different things. But this person, when he thinks about impermanence, he can grasp those ideas very quickly. When he understands something is suffering, when he learns something is suffering, he understands that really well. He understands that there's no self here. So he can understand dependent origination, the 5 aggregates of clinging, asubha, how this body is impure, like the idea behind those things he understands very well. This person develops vidarshana. He develops insight very, very well, but it's hard for him to develop concentration. But as this person keeps contemplating on these things, for example, let's say he keeps contemplating on dependent origination. He thinks, why am I born? What's the reason I'm born? The reason I'm born is because there was karma for me to be born, and so forth. He keeps looking. He looks thoroughly at all of these concepts. As he looks at these concepts, then the 5 hindrances start to suppress. As he focuses on contemplating on these factors, the 5 hindrances start to suppress. So this person, the second type of person, is the person who develops vidarshana and then ends up developing samatha. Does that make sense? So as this person contemplates these topics, these Dhamma topics, these Dhamma points thoroughly, that means he looks at them very, very closely. As he does that, as he contemplates on those, then the 5 hindrances start to suppress. So he goes from vidarshana to samatha. Everyone understand that? Chaturma, you understood that? You look confused. So
No, I got disturbance because of my connection soundnances. So I didn't hear what soundnances said.
did you understand? I was saying that this second person first develops vidarshana. He contemplates on things thoroughly, not as a way to suppress the hindrances, but as he contemplates on these topics thoroughly, then he develops insight. And as he develops insight, after a while, this 5 hindrances start to suppress. So this person goes from vidarshana and then switches to samatha. That's the second person. And then the third person the Supreme Buddha taught is this person is able to develop both at the same time. So both of these, samatha and vidarshana, develop in him at the same time. That's the third type of person. So we don't know what our past karma is. We don't know what our past practices are. So there could be someone here who is very easy for this person to develop samatha. He can easily and quickly suppress the 5 hindrances, but vidarshana might be hard. Concepts like dependent origination, the 5 aggregates of clinging, asubha, those concepts might be difficult for this person to grasp because he doesn't have a practice of vidarshana. But then there could be someone where it's hard for this person to develop anapanasati, which is samatha at first. All of anapanasati is samatha. For this person, he sits down to meditate and he's just thinking about work, starts thinking about all kinds of things, family, friends, all these problems come rush to into his head. For that person, the 5 hindrances are very, very strong within him. It's hard for him to suppress these. But then when he starts thinking about impermanence, this eye is really impermanent. It'll change, it's subject to destruction. These forms that I see with my eye, all these things that I see with my eye are impermanent. As he starts contemplating like this, those concepts are very easy for him to grasp. So we don't know what we've done in our past lives. Someone here can develop vidarshana, someone can develop serenity, someone can develop both at the same time. That all depends on the person. That's why we're covering all of these things. So don't get upset or sad that, hey, I can't develop anapanasati, it's hard for me. Or I can't develop vidarshana, I don't understand these concepts. Because the way someone can understand or develop these things are different. There's 3 different types of people. So keep that in mind. Now, last week we discussed vidarshana a bit on why this vidarshana part only exists in a Buddhist time. But this samatha part, even when there's no Buddha in the world, when there's no Dhamma in the world, when there's no Sangha in the world, someone can still practice different types of meditation and suppress these. So we should have a good idea of who our enemies are. Enemies meaning these are the enemies that bother us when we meditate. So when we say sensual desire, you should understand what this word means. So sensual desire means any type of, and we talked about this in a previous session, sensual desire means anything that's pleasing, anything that our heart goes towards, anything that our mind goes towards, whether it's a form, that means something we see, something we heard, a sound, something we smelled, something we tasted, something we felt, or something we thought. So any of those things counts as sensual desire. So most of our thoughts fall into sensual desire. Let's say you guys sit down to meditate and you remember what you had for dinner last night. You think, I need to have that again, or I'm going to buy this again. What happened? Our mind fell into sensual desire, something we tasted. Or let's say we sit down to meditate and we start thinking about our family, maybe something funny that a relative did. So then that comes into our mind. That counts as sensual, something we saw, something we heard. Those are all sensual desire. Those are things that are pleasing to us. Then ill will is the opposite. Ill will is anything that we saw, anything that we heard, anything that we smelled, anything that we tasted, felt, or thought about that creates conflict in our minds. So that means, let's say we sit down to meditate and we remember someone yelling at us. Maybe our boss was yelling at us and that thought comes to our mind. This person was yelling at me like this. So a sound that we heard creates a conflict in our mind. So our mind starts, instead of focusing on the meditation, now it's focusing on our boss yelling at us. So that counts as ill will. Then there's dullness and drowsiness. Now just keep a general idea of these in your mind. Dullness and drowsiness, two parts. Dullness means, so we sit down to meditate and our mind says, hey, let's meditate in 5 minutes. We forgot to do this, go and do this, and then come back and meditate. Our mind tries to find any escape route or any other thing that we can do other than meditate. For example, sometimes when I first ordained, when we would go to common meditation, I'm telling you experience of mine, instead of meditating, sometimes you think maybe you can contemplate on a Jataka story or a Dhammapada story, which is, you're still contemplating on the Dhamma, but our mind is tricking us to focus on that instead of practicing the meditation, because our mind is very, very tricky. Our mind is, don't ever forget this, your mind is not on your side. Your mind is not your friend. Your mind, the goal of our mind is to drag us to rebirth and death. In order to escape from that, you have to actually put in effort. Otherwise, if you don't have to do that, then everyone will just be free of samsara, be free of rebirth and death. But our mind wants us to continue in samsara. So dullness means our mind is constantly trying to remove us from the meditation, doesn't want us to meditate. It'll give us any excuse not to meditate. And then drowsiness is just, you feel sleepy. As soon as you start meditating, you start feeling sleepy. So a lot of people take advantage of this when they lie down and practice meditation. They know this hindrance is going to come up in their minds. So they think, I'm going to practice meditation lying down. But really, they just want this hindrance to come up so they can sleep easily. So our goal is to practice this meditation without sleepiness coming. We have to see sleepiness as it comes and understand that this is a bother to us. And then there's restlessness and remorse. Now, restlessness and remorse is again two parts. Restlessness means our mind constantly switches from one thing to another. It could be even a meditation. We sit down to do anapanasati and then we switch to buddhanusati, and then we switch to dhammanusati, then we switch to sanghanusati, then we switch to iriyapada, then we switch to sampajanya, then we switch to all kinds of meditations. Really what's happening in our mind, even though this person is practicing meditation, even though he's doing like 15, 20 meditations, his mind is actually being restless. So you need to be aware of that and understand that my mind right now has a hindrance in it. Our mind is restless. And you just see that. And then there's remorse. Remorse means your mind brings up things to regret over. Maybe in the past you told a lie to someone. That comes up and you end up feeling remorseful. Maybe you end up killing a mosquito. You remember that and you end up feeling remorseful. So remorse is anything that you have regret over, or or you have bad feelings over, these thoughts can come up and bother us during our meditation. And finally, there's doubt. Doubt means you have doubt about the meditation. You have doubt about the things you learned. You think, am I doing this correctly? Is it supposed to be like this now? Is this really going to work? All of these thoughts count as doubt, where you're not sure, you don't have confidence in the meditation, and you don't have confidence in how to do the meditation. So anytime those kinds of thoughts come, those all fall under doubt. Now don't forget, all of these 5 are hindrances. That means our concentration will never develop as long as these 5 are present. And the goal of samatha, again, is to remove or suppress these 5. And at the beginning, for any meditation, no matter what you do, you have to suppress these 5 hindrances with effort. That means you have to be very, very aware of how your mind is behaving. You have to be aware of how your mind is acting, and you have to constantly look at it. Constantly look at your mind and see, oh, there's a hindrance in my mind. Is there not a hindrance in my mind? You have to, as soon as a hindrance has a chance of coming up, you have to be aware there's a hindrance here and I need to remove it. So that was when we developed last week, when we talked about this, we talked about iriyapada. And when someone develops iriyapada throughout his day, what he's doing is he was developing samatha. He was suppressing the 5 hindrances throughout the day. Now we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on a meditation which is a bit more advanced than that, and is much easier and much better, much more developed at, I wouldn't say developed, much easier to suppress these hindrances because you have much more to focus on. And this one is called, again, sampajanya. Now here the Supreme Buddha teaches monks, there's a monk who has sampajanya, or so it says abhikkante bhatikkhante sampajana khari hoti. I don't know if you guys remember last week when we said it was gachanto va gachamiti bhajanati. So let's say the key word here is the ending. Last week when we said it was bhajanati. Now it's sampajana khari hoti for every single sentence. Sampajana khari hoti means here when a monk is going forward and coming back. So this person is going out and coming back, no matter when he's going forward or backwards, he's fully alert. He's fully aware. He has awareness. What does that mean? That means this sampajana khari hoti is a very, very special word. That means he has alertness at if there's a defilement coming into his mind or not. So it says abhikkante. I'm going to say this again. I'm going to explain that again. The Buddha teaches abhikkante bhatikkhante sampajana khari hoti, which means this monk is fully alert, fully aware when going forward and when coming back. Now, have you guys ever left your house? You guys have left your house and you've come back to your house. Did your meditation develop? No. The reason is when we're going and returning, when we're doing whatever it is we're doing, when we're going and leaving, when we're going and coming back, we didn't have awareness. So sampajanya here means he's fully aware. He has situational awareness. Whatever the situation is, he has awareness at if there's defilements coming in his mind. So as he goes forward, let's say you're walking out of the house, he's aware, he's looking to see, is there any defilement? Is there any chance of anger coming into my mind? Is there any chance of lust coming into my mind? Is there any chance of ill will, jealousy? Whatever the defilement is, he's being aware, is there a defilement coming? And how is he doing that? He's being aware of how and what he's doing. So as he walks forward, he understands, he sees, he knows, he's walking forward, he's alert, he's aware of his going forward. He's alert, he's aware of his coming back. That's the first part. So going forward and returning, he's aware of that. Does that make sense? And then the Supreme Buddha teaches, 𝗏𝗚𝗃𝗍 𝗵𝗺𝗏 𝗂𝑐𝗺. When looking ahead, when looking away, this monk has awareness. This person he's alert when he's looking around. So you guys are looking at the screen right now. At this moment, you should be aware, I'm looking. You don't need to think that, you have to be aware that I'm looking at something right now. That's the kind of awareness this person has. That awareness is associated with seeing whether there's a defilement in his mind or not. As soon as he comes to this awareness, as soon as he has this kind of sampajanya, this kind of situational awareness, a defilement has no chance to arise in his mind. Why? Because he's aware. His mind is focused on his body, on what his body is doing. Whether he's going forward, coming back, looking ahead, and looking away. And then the Supreme Buddha teaches, saminjite pasarite sampajanakari hoti. When bending and stretching his limbs, he's fully alert. He has full awareness. So even when you move your hand up like this, so let's say I'm moving my hand, I'm extending my hand, at any point, he's aware of what his hand is doing. Does that make sense? So it's not just, let's say there's a cup in front of me. So normally, let's say you're thirsty. There's a cup in front of you, and you pick up the cup and you drink water. Normally, we do this action without awareness. We know in our mind that there's a thirst in our body, and then to quench that thirst, without really thinking about it, we pick up a cup and then drink. But what this person does, he's aware of what his body is doing at every moment. So he's picking up the cup with awareness. He knows he's raising a cup right now. As he has this awareness, a defilement can't come into his mind. Anger can't arise, ill will can't arise, because he's focused on something. His mind is occupied. Does that make sense? Vishaka, you understand? So it says, when he's bending and stretching his limbs, he has awareness. And then the Supreme Buddha teaches, Satipaṭṭhāna sampajanakari hoti. When wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, he has sampajanya, he has awareness. That means even when this person's putting on clothes, even this person's carrying something, he has awareness. He's fully alert at what he's doing. This is something like this person has complete awareness at whatever thing he's doing. Whether he is dressing yourself, he has awareness. And then it says, 𝗙𝗵𝗃𝗀 𝗏𝗨𝗃 sampajanakari hoti. He's fully alert when he's eating, when he's drinking, when he's consuming food, and when he's tasting food. When he's eating, when he's drinking, when he's consuming food and tasting the food. That means, let's say we're eating something. He knows as his hand is bringing up the mouthful. He knows as he chews. He's aware as he tastes the food. And he's aware as he swallows. Every single part of eating, he's aware of. He's not, so this, you have to understand very clearly, this is not this person thinking, okay, I'm chewing. Okay, now I'm swallowing. This is this person, he just has awareness of what he's doing. It's a big difference. He doesn't have to think, okay, I'm chewing, now I'm swallowing, now I'm breathing, okay, now I'm moving my hand. He's just aware of what his body is doing. This is something that happens quickly. He doesn't have to go in slow motion, if that makes sense. Then the Supreme Buddha teaches, 𝗪𝗛𝗵𝗂 𝗪𝗵𝗂𝗂 sampajanakari hoti. That means when he's using the washroom, for both 1 and number 2, he's fully aware, he's fully alert, whether at whatever he's doing, he's aware, he's alert and aware. So whatever he does, he's aware and alert of that. Even during that time, even while using the bathroom, he's fully alert and fully aware. So whether he's using the bathroom, he's aware and alert of what? Whether there's a defilement arising in his mind or not. His mind is occupied with what he's doing. He doesn't take his phone to the bathroom and start watching videos. What does he do? He's aware of what he's doing. Understand? There's a big difference here. This person's, this whole day he's focused on what his body is doing. Then the Supreme Buddha teaches, 𝗏𝗏 ඨිතේ නිසින්නේ සුත්තේ ජාගරිතේ භාසිතේ තුන්හි භාවේ සම්පජානකාරී හෝති. He's fully alert, he's fully aware when walking, when standing, when sitting, when falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. I'm going to say that again. So these are the 4 postures that we learned last week: walking, standing, sitting, and it says falling asleep, which is like lying down, and then waking up, talking, and keeping silent. So right now you guys aren't talking. You have to be aware that right at this moment, you should be aware of what you're doing. Whether you're listening, so you guys should be aware of the words that are coming into your ears. The sounds that you hear, you should be aware of that. The things that you smell, you should be aware of that. You should be aware that you're sitting right now. When you go to bed, you don't just crash onto your bed and then close your eyes and then get knocked out. You're aware as you lie down in bed, you're aware as you close your eyes, you're aware of the posture as you lie down, and you're aware as you wake up. He's aware of waking up. He's alert when waking up. What do most people do? They wake up, oh, I need to go brush my teeth, and then I'm late, and then they rush, eat something, and then run out of the house. Here, this person has awareness. He knows, okay, I'm getting up. Now I'm going to the bathroom. Now again, this isn't slow motion. He's just aware of what he's doing. Now it doesn't say here he should have sampajanya, or he should be fully alert, and he should have full awareness when brushing his teeth. It doesn't say that here. So that means at that time, you don't have to do that, right? Is that what that means? So it doesn't say when brushing your teeth, you should have sampajanya. So that means when you're brushing your teeth, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to have awareness. No, that's not what that means. That means even if something's not included in here, at every single moment of whatever he's doing, this person should have situational awareness. He should be developing this. Whether he's bathing, whether he's brushing his teeth, whether he's driving, whether he's, whatever it is he's doing, whether you're riding a bicycle, you should still have situational awareness. You should be aware of what your body is doing. Now, this is something that's very, very important to develop. Like someone should develop this. Like this is a meditation you should develop throughout your life. Like once you learn this meditation, you're gonna have to develop this. Why? Because this is the reason if you forget, let's say you go somewhere and you forget your bag, and then you go home and you're like, where's my bag? The reason you forgot your bag is because you don't have sampajanya. Let's say you forget to brush your teeth. The reason you forget to brush your teeth is you don't have sampajanya. Let's say you break something slips out of your hand and it breaks. The reason that happens is because you don't have this developed. If someone develops this, let's say the entire world develops this and has this perfected, then there would be no accidents. Why? Because they're fully aware, fully alert, fully aware of whatever it is they're doing. So it's by developing this that you don't forget where you place things, you don't misplace things, you don't handle things wrongly. All of these things are associated with this. And when someone develops this is a meditation you can do literally every single moment of the day. Like there's not a single time, because every single thing is included in this. There's not a single time where you can't meditate, where you can't not meditate. So at every moment, even right now, you can practice this. You can be aware of the sounds that you're hearing. You can be aware of the smells that you're smelling. You can be aware of the forms that you're seeing. You can be aware, I'm looking at this right now. As you bring awareness to that, then any chance of a defilement arising is gone, because your mind, again, is occupied with something. So this is something you have to develop if you want to practice meditation. Why? Especially in the lay life, because this is something you can do whether you're cooking. Like lots of people come and say, sometimes I don't have time to meditate, I have to cook, I have to take the kids to school, I have to do this, this, this. But when you develop this, whether you're taking your kids to school, whether you're cooking, whether you're cutting something on a cutting board, at every single moment, you can develop this. Does that make sense? Because as you cut, you can be aware that my hand is now holding a knife, my hand is now using the knife and cutting, is going in this motion, and you become aware of that. You aren't thinking, okay, I'm holding a knife and I'm cutting now. You're just aware of it. There's a key difference there. You guys understand that? Vishaka, do you understand? Amai, do you understand? Shalini? Okay, explain it to me then. What's the difference between this and someone thinking this? Like, how would you explain this? Let's say, right now you're sitting on your bed. What should you do to practice this?
I should be knowing that I am looking at the screen and I'm listening.
Yes, you should be aware of that. When you
Aware
have
of
that
that,
kind of
yes.
awareness, then a different thought can come into your mind at that moment. So try
Yes,
practicing that.
what should we do?
Huh?
What should we do if thoughts coming in? What should we do?
That means you're not doing this right. Because
Yeah.
if you focus on, let's say try scratching your nose. We did this last time. Everyone try scratching your nose. So scratch your nose. So you did that very quickly. When you went and moved your hand, were you aware your hand was moving up? You just brought your hand and did this. But the person who's developing this, he doesn't, at that moment, as he's moving his hand up, there's no thoughts coming into his mind. His awareness is with his hand coming up. Does that make sense? So a good time to practice this is when cooking, when you're all alone. Let's say you're cooking by yourself, there's no one to bother you, you can practice this. Let's say you're walking somewhere, you're walking alone, you don't have to talk to anyone. You practice noticing, being aware of how your feet are going up and down, how your arms are moving back and forward, how your head is bobbing, whatever it is. You're aware of that. Let's say you're cleaning something. You're aware of how your hands are moving to clean it. You're aware of how you're holding that object. You're aware of what it is you're doing. Whatever situation you're in, you have awareness. Does that make sense? Like you have to have a good idea of this concept to practice this. This isn't just thinking like I don't know how else to explain this. Let's say I'm practicing it right now. Like I don't have to think I'm sitting in a chair. I'm just sitting right now. I'm sitting. I'm just aware I'm sitting. As you bring awareness like that, then your mind is occupied with that. Like just try that for a second. Like okay, close your eyes. You don't have to do this closing your eyes, but just practice that. Just practice being aware of how your head is placed. Okay, just first bring awareness to your head. So now you should be aware of how tense your eyebrows are. You should be aware of how your head is placed in the air. And then bring that awareness down to your shoulders. Then you should feel, okay, my shoulders are either heavy or light. And then if you relax your shoulders, then you'll feel, okay, that tension is gone. Now you have awareness in your shoulders. Okay, now try moving your right shoulder up. Move your right shoulder up. That means you lift your right shoulder. Lift your right shoulder. You should be aware that your shoulder is lifting now. And then bring it back down. And then relax your shoulders. can now scratch your nose. Now be aware as you scratch your nose. As your hand is coming up, you should have awareness that my hand is moving up and now I'm scratching my nose. You can bring your hand back down. Okay, now bring that awareness down to your feet. Now try moving if you're sitting on a chair, move your foot up and down and be aware that your feet are moving up and down. You don't have to think my feet are moving up and down. You just have to be aware. And now try wiggling your toes. Be aware that my toes are wiggling. And now open your eyes. And now be aware, try to bring awareness to the sounds you're hearing. Be aware that there are sounds that I'm hearing, and these sounds make sense to me. If I was speaking Chinese right now, you guys wouldn't understand. So there's still a sound coming into your ear, but this sound you understand. Now bring awareness to what you're seeing. You should be aware I'm looking at something right now. Now bring that awareness to your smell. Bring that awareness to your nose. Now you should be able to smell something in your room. It could be like nothing. You could just smell the air. Now bring attention, bring awareness to your taste buds, to your tongue. Now you should taste what your mouth tastes like. Now bring awareness to your breath. As soon as you do that, you will start intentionally breathing. Now bring your awareness back to your ears. Now you're aware that you're listening to something. Now bring awareness to your posture. Everyone's here, every single person's posture here is different. Why? Because everyone's fingers are placed differently, everyone's head is placed differently, everyone's hands are placed differently. You should be aware of how your whole body is placed right now. Okay, now scratch your nose again. With awareness. Now bring your hand down again. Now look to the left. Look to the left. And then look to the right. You don't have to do it like an exercise. Just do it like naturally, like you look for something and then bring your head back. Look left and right and then bring your head. You should be aware that you're looking though, that your head is moving. So this person who's doing this, he's aware if he looks right, there could be something that might cause a defilement to arise. He has that kind of awareness. Let's say I look to my right and I see someone hitting a dog. Let's say, just for an example, let's say I see someone hitting a human, someone's hitting an old person, let's say. A young person is beating up an old person now. You look to the right and that's what you're seeing. Then you should be aware, as I look to the right, there could be something that I see that might cause anger to arise. Does that make sense? So he looks with that kind of awareness. Let's say he opens the door and enters a room. He's aware of what he hears. He's aware, okay, I could enter the room and I hear something. Let's say your children are fighting. He's aware, okay, I might hear something. There's a sound that might be unpleasant. He has that kind of awareness. That's how aware, that's what kind of awareness this is. This isn't just walking around without thinking anything. This is, he has awareness, he's fully alert on when a defilement might arise. And he brings this awareness and alertness to what his body is doing. And then what does he realize? As he develops this kind of awareness, he realizes that every single thing that we do, every single action is based on an intention. So up till now, everything we practice is samatha. When you develop this, you're developing samatha. And then as you start seeing that every single action has an intention behind it, he starts seeing cause and effect. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you walk into the room and your favorite show is on, okay? You open the door, you walk into the room, you'll see the TV and your favorite show is on. You finished all your tasks and now you think, I'm going to sit down and watch this. Okay? That movement of standing to going and sitting on the couch happened with what? Happened with intention. There's a thought process. Okay, my favorite show is on. If your least favorite show is on, you might have walked to the kitchen. But no, you thought my favorite show is on. And then there was a thought process that you're not aware of that, okay, go sit down on the chair and then let's watch TV. That happened in this without even counting. You can't even say how short that thought process was. But that thought process, there was an intention there and you went and sat down on the couch. Then let's say you guys are sitting right now. Then how many times have you shifted in your chair? How many times did your body say, okay, my leg hurts, move my leg this way, move my leg that way, okay, move my body this way. We shifted like this. Why? Those are all with intention. There is a sensation, something we felt, there's contact, we felt something, and then our body was saying, this is uncomfortable, shift in your chair. And then we shifted. That shift occurred with intention. So everyone here, I just thought you guys shifted as well. Every single movement is happening with intention. If you smile, that's happening with intention. Why? You hear something, and then it makes you smile. That sound is the reason, and then you think, okay, I should smile. And there's a smile occurs. That's with intention. If you blink, that's with intention. So what happens? As this person develops this kind of awareness, he starts becoming aware of every single thing he does. So at the beginning, don't go crazy and try to think, I'm gonna have to think if I'm blinking or not. I have to be aware of that. You're gonna end up going crazy. So when you practice this, take it slowly. We're beginners. That's the first thing you should understand. We're beginners. We're trying to develop something So don't rush into practicing every single thing. You're gonna end up going crazy and then complain to me. So don't do that. Just take it slowly. When you walk somewhere, try to think, I'm gonna practice awareness. Maybe every single day as you wake up, you think, I'm gonna wake up with awareness. So that means you wake up and now you're aware that you're lying down. Now you need to go brush your teeth, right? Because that's the first thing you do. So you wake up and then you know, okay, now I have to shift my feet off the bed onto the floor. So what does he do? He moves his feet and then puts it on the ground. And then when he puts it on the ground, he feels, let's say, tile. He's aware that he's standing on tile. He's not standing on wood. He's not standing on dirt. He's not standing on grass. He knows he's standing on tile. Then he gets up. He's sitting in bed and then he shifts his body up and starts walking to the bathroom. He's aware that he's walking to the bathroom now. That occurred with intention. What was the intention there? I need to brush my teeth. All those movements happen with the goal of brushing that person's teeth. Does that make sense? So don't worry about intention right now. That's later on. Just worry about doing things with awareness. So he's walking to the bathroom, and then what does he do? He picks up his toothbrush. So he's aware of picking up his toothbrush. And he takes off the protective thingy. And then now he's holding it, takes the toothpaste, puts it on the brush, and then he starts brushing his teeth. Now he's moving the toothbrush with awareness. Now you guys will start brushing your teeth properly. He's aware, now he knows how long to brush his teeth, how much toothpaste to use, and then how to not mess up his gums. And then he spits out the toothpaste with awareness. Then he rinses his mouth with awareness. He takes the water, maybe it's cold water. And then as he puts it to his mouth and takes a gulp, he's aware that there's water in his mouth. And he's aware that he's spitting it out. Does that make sense? Then he goes to the bathroom, let's say. He's aware of every single thing he does throughout the day. He's aware he's walking. He's aware he's climbing downstairs. He's aware he's climbing upstairs. He's aware he's showering. He's aware he's eating. So let's say you go sit down at the dining table. Now you're about to eat. Okay, now he sees the food and he's aware that he's looking at food. Then what does he do? He takes a mouthful and he puts it into his mouth. Now he's aware that he's chewing. He's aware he's chewing. and then he experiences the taste. Maybe something unpleasant, maybe there's too much salt. Now what does he do? He's aware that there's a taste happening, and now what does he do? He doesn't get conflicted. He doesn't yell at his mom or his dad saying, there's too much salt in this, you don't know how to cook. He's just aware that there's a taste in mouth, there might be defilement that arises. He's aware. So as he has this kind of awareness, anger doesn't arise. Then he swallows, and that taste disappears. The taste is no longer there. Then he's aware that this food is going down. Then he finishes his meal, gets up, and then now he's dressing. He's dressing, he's putting on his clothes with awareness. Not rushing and then trying to run out of the house. He's doing it with awareness. So if you guys trying to practice this, try to wake up 5-10 minutes early, set an alarm so you don't have to rush out of the house. So then you get into it, and then your life is getting more and more schedule organized. There's some order to your life now. So as you practice this, as you develop this, there's no more rushing. Why? He's developing awareness. So this is not doing things in slow motion, and you have to make your day suitable enough to practice this, because we're still beginners. Once you develop this and practice this, no matter what you do, no matter what, how quickly you do it, you have awareness of what you're doing. But as we begin, you need to have some boundaries on your capacity. That means maybe we can't have awareness throughout the day. Maybe we start with just waking up. Whenever you remember, because most of the time you're going to wake up, forget we even discussed this, and then 2 days from now, you're going to think, oh yeah, we discussed Sampajanya, I should practice that. And then you practice for 5 minutes, and then a day later, a problem with your children or your family or something else happens, and then you completely forget this. And then next week I say, did you guys practice this? And you say, yeah, I did practice this. It was only for 5 minutes. That's what really happens. So you guys should at least think, no, I practiced 5 minutes this week. That's okay. Next week I'll practice 10 minutes. And then in your life, you'll slowly progress, right? It's the turtle that won the race, right? So slowly, slow and steady, you'll develop something. It's better than nothing. Better than not doing this at all. 5 minutes is better than nothing. So think, this is something I need to practice. Whatever it is you're doing, no matter what you do, you can do this. It can be anything. Pick a time, pick something where you don't have any bothers. Your children don't bother you, your spouse doesn't bother you, your family, your friends, no one bothers you. You have this time alone. Maybe it's reading. Maybe you have time to read a book. You read it with awareness. Maybe it's listening to Dhamma. You listen with awareness. Maybe it's writing something. Maybe you have to write something. You write with awareness. Whatever it is, you should have some kind of time set to practice this since you're beginning. It could be cooking. You're cooking, you do all those things with awareness. That way you don't forget to wash a dish and just leave it there. You have awareness now. Does that make sense? So as he sees intention, so he switches this to vidarshana. He sees the intention, he sees cause and effect, and he realizes all these things occur because of intention. And intention is something that occurs through contact. And then he realizes there's cause and effect, and he sees the impermanence in these things. He sees the non-self in this. He sees suffering in this. And what does he do? He thinks, when he sees cause and effect, he starts investigating that. He starts seeing insight, and he sees dependent origination. He sees the 5 aggregates of clinging. As he sees these, he becomes aware, and he's able to develop insight. But this is much, much down the road. So for us, what should we do? We should practice however much we can. As long as you practice, you should think, from today on, I'm going to practice this whenever I'm doing something. Whenever I have time alone, it could be at work. Maybe you're typing something, maybe you're typing out a document. You do it with awareness. Maybe you're collecting something from someone, a customer. You're doing it with awareness. At all those moments, as you have situational awareness, you're going to be developing samatha. You'll be suppressing the 5 hindrances. As you do that, when you come down and sit down to meditate, the entire day you've been practicing suppressing the 5 hindrances. Then when you sit down and meditate, you've already practiced suppressing the 5 hindrances throughout your day. When you sit down, you just have to continue that. It's much easier to meditate that way. Otherwise, if someone doesn't have this, there's no way if they meditate 10 minutes a day that they will ever suppress the 5 hindrances. There's no way. It can't happen. Why? You have such busy lives. From the moment you wake up, it's go, go, go. You have to think of something, you have to do something, you have to think what's next. There's no moment to breathe. Because of that, when you sit down to meditate, there's no way your mind can concentrate. Why? There's a billion things you have to think about. You have to think about what you're going to cook tomorrow, what you're going to pack for lunch, what you're going to do at work, if something is due or not, whatever it is you have to think about. All those thoughts will overcome you and you won't be able to focus on the meditation. So practice this is something you can do anytime. Have an idea in your mind, I'm going to practice this at this time. I'm going to separate this time to practice this, and then develop this. Now, there's nothing for this meditation, that's all we're going to cover. This is something you have to do for the rest of your life now. Don't take that as a burden. Take that as, this is something I can do anytime, any moment to develop my mind. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can practice this meditation anytime, any place. As you do this, your life will improve. You won't forget things. You won't mishandle things. You won't leave things at the monastery and then we'll have to give it back to you a week from now and remind you that it's still here. None of those things will happen. Okay? Shalini, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Suppose we are doing 2-3 things at a time. Generally, we tend to do multitasking. So, how can I practice this during that time, doing 2-3 things? Like
Can you
I'm
give me
exercising as well as I'm talking to someone. Both the things I'm doing at the same time. How can I practice awareness in
so
those
in the
times?
beginning, that's why I said don't try to focus on every single thing because you're gonna end up go crazy. In the beginning, try to pick a time where you're alone and you're doing one task. Later on, you can do multiple things and be aware of that. But in the beginning, just try to focus on when you're doing one task. Maybe you're just cooking. Maybe 30 minutes you're cooking. You think, okay, I'm going to be aware of what I'm doing for these 30 minutes. It's not going to be 30 minutes. It's probably going to be like 2 minutes, forget, and then come back in 2 minutes and then do it again. But at least you have that idea in the beginning. I'm going to practice this for this time. So in the beginning, practice that. And then later on, as you develop this, then your mind will get stronger. So right now you're asking like this, like let's say you go to the gym and then there's big weights, okay? And there's small weights. You're saying, how do I lift the big weights? What does the person say? No, you gotta lift the small weights first. Once you lift the small weights, then your muscles will develop, then you can lift the big weights. So right now we have to lift the small weights. You gotta lift the small weights, and then once your mind develops, then you can do multiple things. Really, you'll be able to focus, your mind will be able to process multiple things with awareness. Like arahants, they can develop all 4 kaya-nupassana, Vedana-nupassana, Chitta-nupassana, and Dhamma-nupassana at the same time. So as let's say there's a monk who's let's say he's sweeping the ground. So he's aware that he's handling a broom that he's sweeping, but he could be developing my loving kindness at the same time. Does that make sense? So there's 2 things developing at the same time. But don't just take it slowly. Just think, I'm going to practice this. That's better than nothing. I'm going to practice. I'm going to separate this time. This is a good time. No one bothers me. There's no one to talk to. I'm alone. Then you can practice that at that time and then develop it slowly. And then you can later on lift the big weights. Okay? Make sense? Any other questions? Saturma, you understood?
එහෙමයි සමහරවිට.
Tisuri, you have a question?
My Swaminathan, I have two questions. The first
Okay.
one is, what exactly is a defilement? Because it's something I was thinking for some time, like even if it's a pleasant thought, is it a defilement? And then if we try to or aspire to not have those kinds of thoughts, will our life be like absent of even joy or pleasure, or is that the goal? And the
So,
second, oh, sorry.
okay, what's the second question?
The second question is it possible to be mindful all the time? Like, for instance, if I'm watching a TV show, like my favorite TV show or something, and the story is like captivating, and the purpose of watching it is to kind of like remove yourself from your current reality and kind of watch something and kind of put yourself into like a different world, I suppose. That's sort of the
Okay.
purpose of watching a movie or TV show or something, right? So in that case, like, should we stop entertainment and things like that, or reduce it? Or I'm a
So
bit confused.
So you guys are late. So there's a difference. You guys are monks. So monks don't watch TV shows and don't spend time. We can't listen to songs. We can't watch TV shows. We have precepts like that. You guys don't have those precepts. So the Buddha taught you guys 5 precepts. Those 5 were the ones that we covered at the beginning, where I gave you those 5 precepts. Not killing, not stealing, not committing sexual misconduct, not telling lies, and not taking intoxicants that are any kinds of intoxicants. So those are the 5 precepts that you have. So the Buddha there's no discourse where it says, lay people shouldn't watch entertainment. That's a precept. The Buddha never said that. But the Buddha said this, the Buddha taught this, that let's say someone, I'm just going to give you a different answer, but you should understand your question from this answer, okay? There's a group of dancers. There's a person whose entire ancestry are dancers, okay? This person came and told the Buddha, Supreme Buddha, my ancestors have taught that those who entertain others, so let's say there's someone who by dancing entertains others. Maybe there's a comedian who by telling jokes makes people laugh. My ancestors have taught, since we make people happy, since we provide entertainment, we collect merit, and by making people happy at our death, after we die, we end up going to a good destination. We go to a heavenly world. Then the Buddha says, don't ask me this question. That person asks, is this true or not? And the Buddha says, don't ask me that question. Ask me something else. Then that person again says the same question. Is it true that if someone provides entertainment, makes someone laugh, makes someone, like what you said, takes them apart from reality and lets them enjoy that kind of pleasure, do they collect merit? Do they go to a good destination? Is that true? That's what my ancestors have taught me. Second time, the Buddha said, don't ask me that. Again, the third time, this person asks. Then the Buddha says, 3 times I told you not to ask, but since you insistently ask this question, I'll teach you. When someone provides entertainment, which is sensual pleasure, that person is helping that person continue on in samsara. When you watch a TV show, does that make you think I should get rid of aging and death? That makes you want to be born again, watch something again, enjoy something again. That person's helping you do that. And then because that person does that, after they pass away, that person ends up going to a bad destination. And if someone has the view that by making someone laugh, making someone experience happiness through sensual pleasures, that person is collecting merit, that view itself is enough. Just the view. This person doesn't even do it, but he thinks that way. That view itself is enough to make this person go to a bad destination. So there's no precept where it says, don't watch TV, don't do this. Just understand that there should be a limit. There should be a limitation on how we do these things. Because let's say there's someone whose entire day is filled with sensual pleasures. Then his mind is it focused on the Dhamma or is it focused on sensual pleasures? His mind leans towards sensual pleasures. So then at his death, his mind, his karma is prepared to take him to on that kind of path or something towards liberation. His mind is prepared to take him on a continuance, to be born again and again, not towards liberation. So you can, like, there's a difference between overly indulging in sensual pleasures and then just normally living life. You have to find that limitation. You have to find that yourself. Like, I can't tell you don't watch TV at this time, don't watch TV tomorrow or the next day. That's like your choice. That's on you to figure out. And another important thing I think you should understand is that, let's say, like, a lot of people, some people are in the habit of, let's say, binge eating after there's a problem. There's someone who, after there's a problem, this person eats to get rid of that problem. Why? Because his mind is focused on the taste at that moment, and that food gives him a happy sensation. So instead of focusing on the problem, he's focusing on that happy feeling. But that feeling, that focus will never help get rid of that problem. That feeling, that solution that he's using sensual pleasures as a solution to sensual pleasures, to not getting sensual pleasures. That solution will never lead to a fix. It is only through seeing the reality of things, seeing your life through the Dhamma, seeing impermanence, suffering, and non-self, that can someone actually truly escape from these kinds of pains, these kinds of sufferings. So the Buddhist teaching is not it's not a teaching where you should practice this just to have a good day. The Buddhist teaching is with a goal in mind, which is liberation. To practice this, your goal is liberation. You have a goal in life, which is, one day I want to escape birth and death. So the person practices this with that intention, not with, I have a problem with my friend, he yelled at me, so I'm going to practice this for a few days and get rid of my problem and then forget about this. It's not that kind of practice. This is like, you practice this with a broader goal. Does that make sense? What was the second question? Did I answer the second question?
The first question was about defilements. The second question
What was defilements? Defilements are anything that make the mind impure. A defilement is something that has 3 roots, okay? That means if your thought, whatever thought you have, is based on these 3 things, or any one of them, then it's a defilement. If any of your thoughts are based on anger, then you should understand this is a defilement. If any of your thoughts are based on lust, you should understand this is a defilement. If any of your thoughts are based on delusion, then you should understand this is a defilement. So anger is a defilement. Coveting others' things. So let's say you see a nice car and think, I wish I had that kind of car. That is a defilement. Why? Because that's based on lust. So based on lust, you have a defilement. The previous time, based on anger, you have a defilement. Let's say someone gets a promotion and you don't, but you did more work. Then you think, hey, I did more work, I should have gotten that promotion. And you get angry or you get jealous. That thought is based on lust and anger. Does that make sense? So if any of your thoughts, any of the things that come up in your mind are based on those 3 things, anger, lust, and delusion, then you can define that as a defilement. Does that make sense?
If I can add just one more clarification.
Yeah.
The end goal is maybe not to like stop watching movies, but maybe someday to want to stop watching movies, or is that correct?
The goal is one day not to be born. The goal is one day not to experience death. The goal is one day not to get sick. Much broader than that kind of goal. So like a lot of lay people have this problem. Let's say there's someone who thinks, like the Buddha teaches, that everything is impermanent. And this person practices impermanence and thinks, I shouldn't buy nice clothes. Why? Because it's impermanent. But those shabby, ugly clothes are just as impermanent as the nice clothes. So as a lay person, wear nice clothes, eat good food, experience good things. The Buddha never says live in discomfort. That's how you practice impermanence. No, like practicing the Dhamma means you experience things without attachment. You go through life trying to remove attachment, because the problem is not watching TV. The problem is the craving that arises through watching TV. There's a big difference. The Buddha never says watching TV is, or watching entertainment is the reason people are born. The Buddha taught the reason for suffering is that there's something called craving. So I'm going to teach the 4 basics in Buddhism, which is there's something called suffering. Suffering is being born, aging, dying, sickness, losing things that you like, having to associate with people and things you dislike. Those are all suffering. And then there's a cause for suffering, which is craving. Understand that like this, right? Today, do you guys know how many people died? I think I asked this last time. Over 150,000 people died today. But none of you are crying. None of you are saying, oh, take me with you. Why did you leave us? Why did you do this? And crying right now, right? None of you guys are crying. You guys are smiling. Look. The reason is, what's the reason? But now let's say the person, someone who you really, really love, someone who's close to you dies. Wouldn't you guys end up crying? What's the reason? That person, both are humans. Both are humans, both died. Today, 150,000 people died. But none of you guys are crying. What's the reason? You didn't have attachment to those people. So because you didn't have attachment, you aren't sad right now. So the Buddha teaches if you have 10 attachments, you have 10 things to be sad about. If you have 50 attachments, you have 50 things to be sad about. Let's say you really like your phone. What happens? Drop your screen. You feel happy or you feel sad? Laptop breaks. Are you happy or sad? Why? Because this is my laptop. Someone else's breaks, you don't care. Maybe thousands of people's laptop broke today. Are you guys sad? No, because there's no, this is my laptop. That's my laptop broke. There's no feeling like that. So it's through attachment, through craving, that suffering arises. And the Buddha taught, if someone wants to get rid of suffering, then he has to get rid of craving. So with the cessation of suffering, with the cessation of craving, suffering ceases. Then the Buddha taught, there's a path to get rid of craving. There's a path to get rid of suffering. And that's the 8 Noble Path. And an eight Noble Fold Path. Am I saying that right? I always mix that up. Eight Noble Path. Noble Eightfold Path. That's the thing. By practicing the things in that path, someone can practice getting rid of craving and getting rid of suffering. So by practicing that is the way to get rid of suffering. Not having a thought, I should not watch TV. Whatever is in the path, that's what you should practice. Does that make sense? Shalin, does that answer your question?
Yes, in the sense I think it's more clear now.
Okay.
But maybe as I practice more, I will understand it better, because I am struggling a little bit on deciding. Like, I feel guilty sometimes for wanting nice things like what was explained. So I don't know how to navigate that yet. But
You
maybe
shouldn't feel guilty. You should just understand. Like, let's say someone buys, let's say it's 2 people, okay? One person, both of them buy brand new, same type of cars. One person, when he buys it, he knows this car will one day break down. No matter what car you buy, it'll break down. This car will wear away. The sun will burn whatever color is on this car inside, and this color will fade. This car is impermanent. One day this will rust and then degrade back into the earth. But he still buys that car and he drives it around and he experiences. The second person thinks, this is my car, I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to protect this as much as I can. If someone scratches it, they get mad. Whoever touches this car wrongly, who looks at it wrongly, they get mad. That person's car breaks down. Both of their cars break down in the same place, the same time. Which person experiences more suffering? The first person or the second person? The second person, right? Everyone understand what I just said? The reason is that first person understands this is something impermanent. This is something that will eventually break. That's the fate of that. So with that, he uses it. The other person thinks this is mine, nothing can happen to this, this can't ever change, it has to stay like this forever, and he uses it. Then when that thing changes, when that thing fades away, he experiences suffering. It's the same with us. You take yourself as an example. When you think, I can't change, I have to stay the same way, I have to stay youthful, I can't ever get old. Then when you get old, when your hair starts turning white, when your teeth start falling out, you experience lots of suffering. But if you come to the conclusion, you come to your mind, you think in your mind, one day I will grow old, one day my hair will turn white, one day my teeth will fall out, one day I'll end up in a sick bed, one day my skin will wrinkle. When you have these kinds of thoughts, then when those things come into your life, you don't get sad. You're already expecting them. You already know there's something that will happen. You can't ever escape that. So it's practicing the Dhamma means coming to those views of suffering, non-self, and impermanence. Anatma, dukkha, anitya. Those are the three main concepts in the Dhamma. I hope that answers your question. Shalini, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Actually, accidentally, if I break one of the 5 precepts, accidentally, like if I kill a mosquito accidentally out of habit, what should I do then?
So this is, you almost got away with it, which was, let's say you accidentally killed a mosquito. Accidentally means, let's say you're like scratching your ear and there's a mosquito there and it dies. That's an accident. Habit, let's say normally you're used to just, if you feel a sensation here, you just slap. You don't even look, you just slap your arm because you know a mosquito probably landed there. So that's habit. Habit, there's still intention there. There's still, you know that this might be a mosquito. You're aware, now you're used to it. It happens very, very quickly, but you just slap now. As you do that, that precept breaks. Why? Because for that precept, specifically when you kill, the precept works like this. There has to be a living thing. So let's say you feel a sensation here and there's an ant there, let's say. So there's a living thing. Then you have to have an idea that this is a living thing. Then you have to have a plan. Like you have to have a way. Okay, I'm gonna slap this with my hand. I'm gonna use this book and slap this. Whatever it is, there's a plan in your head that forms to kill that animal or being. Then you carry out that plan. You actually kill, or you actually hit that, or whatever it is, you carry out the plan. Sorry, there has to be intention. The one before is there has to be intention. So there's a plan, you carry out the plan, that's one. And there's intention to kill. You have to have intention to kill. And then finally, that animal has to die, that being has to die. When all of those things get completed, then the precept breaks. But let's say there's a sensation here and there's just dust, or like something rubbed on like a leaf rubbed on your hand, and you slap. There's no living thing there. All other 4 could be there. You might think this is a living thing. You might think it's an ant. You might have intention to kill. You might carry out and you might have a plan and carry it out, but there's no living thing there. It didn't die. Nothing died. So then the precept doesn't break. But habit does not stop the precept from breaking. Why? Because all 5 of those things all 5 of those things occur. Now those 5 things occur very, very quickly because it's a habit now. Does that make sense? So a habit doesn't mean accident.
Yes, but if suppose the killing was an example, if any of them gets broken, what should we do then?
So the way those 5 break are by accident are very different. For example, stealing, you have to have intention to steal. Like if that intention is there and it has to belong to someone else, let's say you're wearing headphones right now. Those headphones you give to a friend, okay? Let's say you loan it to a friend. And then a week from now, you go to their house and think, whoa, those are some nice headphones. I'm going to steal those. You take the headphones and you come back home. And then you look at the headphones, you think, these are my headphones. I gave them to that person. Then the precept doesn't break. So it has to belong to someone else. You have to have intention to steal, and you have to do a plan, whether by voice, by sign, or by yourself, by telling someone else to steal. Whatever it is, you do a plan, you carry it out, and you steal that thing. That's stealing. Then for lying, let's say sometimes we accidentally say something. Like someone asks, did you eat? And just like without awareness, you say, yeah, I ate. But really you didn't eat. That doesn't break the precept. You have to have intention to lie. You have intention to trick that person. And then you do something to do that. So there's ways, different things. If you end up breaking a precept, the best thing to do is you should tell a 𝗪𝗂𝗂 and then try to make yourself like telling someone who is higher than you in virtue and wisdom is a good practice. That's what monks do. Let's say a monk breaks a precept. Usually they go tell another monk that's elder, someone who has wisdom and virtue. That's how they purify themselves. This dispensation is all about standing up again. When you fall down, you stand up. We say in Sinhala, 𝗙𝗵𝗂𝗧𝗍𝗔. If there is no standing up when you fall down, you can't ever develop. But just because you break a precept, you shouldn't think, I broke a precept, I can't ever get pure. You should think, no, there's ways to get rid of this. And you, let's say there's no 𝗪𝗂𝗂𝗧 around, then you should worship the Buddha, ask for forgiveness, and think, and have a determination again. I made a mistake here. I broke a precept. But from today on, I'm going to protect all 5 again. And then you retake the precepts yourself. The best way to do is don't go telling everyone, hey, I don't lie, I told a lie, and then you're going to end up creating a bigger problem than you have now. You tell someone with wisdom and virtue. That's why I said 𝗪𝗂𝗂𝗧. Nowadays, really only monks, and even some monks. And even then, you should be careful. Like you should know, I should tell this person, not tell this person. Your parents, if they have virtue and wisdom, that's a good choice. You shouldn't tell someone who's like, you can't tell some, like especially in the lay life, some people will say, wow, you're such a great person, and then behind your back talk badly about you. You should have some kind of common sense in the world you live in. Like not everyone joined this class, right? Some people are evil, some people are mean. There's people like that. You should be aware that there's people like that. So when you talk to people, when you associate, when you tell people things, you should understand this person might have evil intention towards me, even though he acts all friendly. I'm not saying have like suspicions about everyone in your life. I'm just saying have some common sense. So if a precept breaks, you should tell someone with wisdom and virtue. If you don't have anyone nearby, you should ask for forgiveness and then retake the precept and take a determination. If you're in an emergency, there's no way to ask for forgiveness. You should just redetermine your precepts and think, from this moment on, I'm going to keep my precepts again. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Has even you understood everything?
Hey, my son.
Then now you guys should have an idea in your mind of when am I going to practice this meditation. Everyone should have an idea now. I'm going to practice at this time. This is a good time for me. Think on that. And then a good thing is to write it down. You should write down, like you guys should do this actually. On a piece of paper, after this session ends, you should write down, I'm going to practice this meditation during this time. And then next week, you have to show me what you wrote down. Like I wrote this down, and you show me I wrote it down, okay? That's your homework. You just write it down when you're going to practice this. Does that make sense? So let's say I'm going to practice this throughout the day or try my best, but especially while cooking. And you write that down. Someone else, I'm going to practice this throughout the day, but especially while walking to work, while walking to school, while working, while handing documents, while dealing with customers. Whatever it is you write down, what you're saying, if the first line is, I'm going to practice this throughout the day, but especially at this time. Otherwise, you're going to say, I'm going to practice this for 5 minutes and then I'm not doing that either. Practice this throughout the day if you can. That's the best thing to do. But I know since you guys aren't going to do that, at least you'll do that 5 or 10 minutes, okay? Anyone understand the homework? So next week you have to tell me. So honestly, I wrote it down for the people that are too shy to turn their cameras on. Like you that turn the cameras on, you have to show them. Vishak, especially you, I'm going to ask you. Okay, since this, is there any questions the last time? Okay, since there's no other questions, we're going to end the session here. Today we collected lots of merit by listening to the Buddha's teaching, by practicing situational awareness for a few moments. In all these ways, we collected lots of merit. All the merit we collected, we share with all the devas. May all the devas rejoice in this merit and provide righteous protection to all these lay devotees and their families and loved ones. May all the devas have the good fortune to escape from this journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share this merit with all of these lay devotees as departed relatives. May all the departed relatives be happy and well. May they also have the good fortune to escape from this journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share this merit especially with our teacher, 𝗵𝗺 who taught us the Dhamma in this era, with 𝗵𝗺 with all the monks of Mahamevnawa, all the monks training in the Buddha's dispensation. May all the monks rejoice in this merit and also be able to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit we collected with all of these lay devotees and their children and their family and loved ones. May all these lay devotees be happy, healthy, and well. May you all have long lifespan. May you all be able to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Everyone chant with me. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang 𝗙𝗃𝗓 𝗪𝗵𝗀𝗃 𝗵𝗎 තථාගත කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං කමමේ ධම්ම සන්දිට්ඨික අකාලික කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං කමමේ සංඝ පුඤ්ඤක්ඛෙත්තං අනුත්තර. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I will chant a blessing for you all. Abhivadana silissa niccang vaddapachayino chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti minate samijjatu. May you all be happy, healthy, and well. 𝗪ᵣ සරණයි. නමෝ බුද්ධාය.
Ausra Sans, may we ask forgiveness from Mohansi?
Okay.
Dear devotees, let's go to the floor and worshiping our Sannyasana. ෝකාස වන්දාමි බන්තේ මයා කතම් පුඤ්ඤං සාමිනා අනුමෝදිතබ්බං
Sadhu, sadhu, anumodami.
සාමිනා කතම් පුඤ්ඤං මයිහං දාතබ්බං
Sadhu, sadhu, anumodate.
සාදු සාදු අනුමෝදාමි ඕකාස ద్వාරත්තේන කතං සබ්බං අච්චයං කමතමේ බන්තේ
Amami kamitabham.
ඕකාස කමාමි බන්තේ ဒ ුතියම්පි ඕකාස කමාමි බන්තේ තතියම්පි ඕකාස කමාමි බන්තේ.
May everyone be well and happy. Okay, everyone is free to go. If someone has any other questions, they can stay behind and ask. But that's the end of the session. You guys can all leave.